chat. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the show. You can catch us here 5 days a week on UCY, the Anti-Media. We have various different hosts that host all these shows Monday through Friday. So we really try to bring a different perspective every day and, you know, breaking down this propaganda that's going on. If anybody wants to join the show, feel free to call us at 718-717-8296 if you want to join the call and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Joining me tonight on the show is my co-host DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, Nick, doing really well. Just reading up on some of the stuff going down since Monday, and pretty impressive things going on, especially with the Bibi speech, some of the reverberations. And then I don't know if you have anything else on the docket, but I saw this petition against the mandatory vaccinations hit its 100,000 signature threshold at whitehouse.gov. So you're starting to see this. There's a little bit of baby pushback against this, what's now becoming overreach on the Fed's part, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, man, and, you know, I'm all for safe vaccines and stuff like that, but to make them mandatory at a federal level, I think that's going a bit too far. You know, certain people don't want to use them because of health concerns. Certain people don't want to use them because of religious concern. Whatever it is, once again, it's not the it's not so much the vaccines that have prevented these diseases as much as it is just understanding how these diseases work, keeping stuff clean, not allowing stuff to get infected and stuff like that.
Yep. I was going to say hygiene and modern infrastructure has been far more paramount than any of these lowest common denominator type of inoculation programs, because it's been shown it actually gives people the disease that don't have it sometimes. And then guess what? They're carriers. So it's a big scam, just like everything else. And it's starting to get scary for parents, because I had a friend that has a 1-year-old who just got her checkup and they gave her 6 vaccines at once.
Yeah, you know, I definitely think there is a role that vaccines play. I think, you know, some vaccines are really good, help prevent diseases and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, some of this stuff, you know, sometimes it's overboard, you know, and of course, you know, you gotta keep in mind that we're talking about the healthcare system. We're talking about big pharma and all that stuff, and you know, people already know, people already know that it's healthcare for profit, you know, and it's very much a conflict of interest many times. So let's just, you know, throw that out there for people to think about. Also on the call tonight, we're joined by Manny. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us on Monday because we had something going on with our phones. How's it going, Manny?
Hey, what's up, NB? What's up, BV? And everything. Yeah, we're kind of sad not to join you guys on Monday and stuff like that. But you're right about the pharmacists. The cartels here are getting rich and stuff like that. Supposedly the legal cartels and stuff like that. So somebody's making money under the table, including the doctors' kickbacks and all that. So I'm not happy about that. Also had a big boycott up there in England because the president of Mexico was up there, and of course they had a big sign for him. You're not welcome here, stuff like that. But of course the politicians, they gave them a royal everything, but the people themselves, it's just like, they're supporting us on the 43 England. There's a lot of people who are not happy about what happened at 43. I'm not happy about what happened at the 43 and stuff like that. And the women are really, marching and getting. There's going to be a big deal down there your way on Sunday, for women's rights and the 43 movement. Saturday, the 28th was a really big day out there, and stuff like that.
Manny,
Mexican
when
consulate that, and then we basically went to NBC Studios. So that was really nice.
Manny, when are the people down there gonna be able to either convince or pressure the military that's supposed to protect them from their own government? Yeah,
well, it's just basically there's one of the updates and says a lot of soldiers are really, the young ones are really for the people. They really do they're starting to back off. It's the older army that's taking orders, but these young army guys are not taking orders like basically the old army was and stuff like that. So it's they have orders to go after the people, but they're staying back, more and more and more and more and stuff like that, and so just and some cops up there are seeing what's happening to their families, and they're kind of saying, wait a minute, I'm a cop and my wife is in the front lines of, basically trying to overthrow the government because of the 43, so it's kind of or even, some of these people because their own wives are up there in the front lines and stuff like that,
Yeah, exactly. And, one of the untold stories from Operation Protective Edge, which was the recent, the 2014 assault on Gaza by the Palestinians, was that there was a bunch of guys and a bunch of soldiers, that are Israeli soldiers. Now, keep in mind, in Israel, they have this mandatory conscription where basically everybody has to go through military training. Everybody is going to be on call if they ever get called up. But one of the stories that went under the radar was the amount of soldiers that refused to go fight. There was a bunch of them that said, you know what, this is wrong, we're not going to do this, and instead they all went to jail. And there was hundreds of these guys. But it wasn't really talked about much on the corporate media. We talked about it a few nights here on the anti-media, but I think DB brings up a pretty good question there. In times of injustice, sooner or later, these people that are just the foot soldiers of the apparatus, of the machine, of the state, sooner or later they have to decide, are we going to keep on protecting these bureaucrats that are screwing us over at the same time, or are we going to switch sides? And
that's always the cycle, Nick, right? It's like they repress you and oppress you, and then what happens is the people rise up, and guess who makes up the military? It is the people. And then the military have guns, and they outnumber all the elites with their private armies, and then it's over. There's a bloody insurrection, there's a coup, the people take it back, and then they get lazy again, and they allow these pythons in. And that's our problem, man, is we got lazy, especially during the 80s when all the money was coming in. Because you can start to see that globalist type of legislation started in the 80s.
Exactly, DB. And Nick actually mentioned one time on the show, I remember you saying that, Nick, about that you went up to some cops and you were looking at them in San Diego, and some of them actually were agreeing, that was not, basically something that we, they agreed with us basically at what we were doing against the system,
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are in there that are working for the government, whether they're cops or people in the military, that are really on the fence, or they're actually on our side of the fence, but they have to keep on pretending that they're not, because if they don't, they're going to be the victim of these slandering attacks like Dorner was, and that's what happened when he crossed that thin blue line. So what we have to do is create an atmosphere where it's like there's enough of them. There's enough people that are willing to step forward, and there's enough support for them by the public that they can do it without getting, these crazy repercussions that can drive these people crazy.
Exactly.
We do have a couple callers on the line that I want to get to before we have our other guests come on. So first we're going to go to 443 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
This is John Vibes, actually.
Hey, what's up, John? How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Pretty good. John Vibes is one of the writers for us here at the Anti-Media, and he also works for a bunch of other awesome websites, and then he's also you're actually doing a lot of projects. Why don't you fill our audience in a little bit on what's going on, upcoming stuff that you're working on?
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for that introduction. And I generally juggle a bunch of different projects, but right now, kind of my main focus is the Free Your Mind project, and that's something that you're involved with as well. And it's basically a conference that's been going on for the past couple of years in Philadelphia. And, instead of, I love all kind of freedom-oriented events, but a lot of them, they kind of, stick to their little clique, you know what I mean? Like, the libertarian crowd has their stuff, the UFO crowd has their stuff, the anarchist crowd has their stuff. But our thing is to just bring all that together, even the people who are into, maybe alternative spirituality and stuff like that, mind control, organic food, any kind of issue that is freedom-oriented, we like to bring into this conference. And this year, the Anti-Media is going to be involved with our alternative media panel, which is also going to be featuring people from the Free Thought Project, as well as Luke Rudowski from We Are Change. And we're going to field some questions from the audience, as well as people prior to the conference can send their questions in as well for us to kind of be discussion points for the panel. But that should be really cool, man. That's one of the big projects that I have going on right now that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be out there in Philly. I think it's on between April 10th and April 12th, right?
Yeah, April 10th, 11th, and 12th at the Sheridan Bucks County Hotel, just right outside of Philadelphia.
Never been there and looking forward to it. Need to see the Liberty Bell.
Yeah, it'll be a good weekend.
Cool. Yeah, I think DB's going to come out there, and SM's going to come out there too. So it should be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And then you guys are also working on this other project, you and Derek Bros, a book that you're working on called The Conscious Resistance. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that will actually be releasing at the conference for free, and we'll be, providing ebooks and everything for everybody at home too. But that's basically the culmination of a couple of years of work of me and Derek just kicking ideas back and forth. Trying to get through a lot of the issues that we don't really think are covered a whole lot, and that maybe people are afraid to delve into. And there's this big divide between kind of like you're somewhat left and right brain people, or you're some people who may be more inclined to the more physical aspects of reality, and then the other people who may be in tune to the more intuitive artistic aspects of our reality. So when that comes to politics and stuff like that, you have people who will be drawn towards, the freedom movement or anarchism, and that's kind of the stance that we take in the book. But on another side, people who seek freedom in a spiritual sense, they'll research like meditation or yoga or alternative spiritualities. But a lot of times we've noticed that they're really people that are on that side of things are really afraid to delve into stuff that they think's like negative or like bad vibes or whatever, and then on the other side, there are a lot of people who are on the rational end of things that, maybe into anarchism, but they might laugh at somebody having freedom to explore spirituality. So what we're trying to do is tie this mental freedom with the physical freedom and kind of document how many traditions throughout time have really been on the same side with these issues as well, but they've just gotten corrupted by, power-seeking organizations.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and we've brought this up before, and I think I really started thinking about this after I got done hanging out with you guys in Houston for the community event that the Houston Freethinkers helped put on. And when I was hanging out with you and Derek, I kind of came away with this idea too of building on the ideas of freedom on more than just like a rational sense, and getting more into like the emotional, spiritual side of things. Because I think that like in a very rational way, it's hard to make like a really strong connection to something, So I think that it'd be really healthy for people that love freedom to develop a more, a more in-depth relationship with it, so that way we could live it. We could live that life basically. And right now, I think one of the things that's holding it apart or keeping it from growing stronger is these kind of organic connections. And I think that's why, at least what I got from hanging out with you guys, that's one thing that I really thought can really push this movement forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to point out too is like with this, we're not trying to put forward some kind of new religion or new concept of anarchism. Basically, what we're saying is that people should have the freedom to speak, whatever kind of fulfillment in life that they have through either the physical or the more intuitive mental senses or spiritual. But that doesn't mean that somebody has to believe what I believe about, what goes on beyond the five senses, or what Derek believes. People could believe that there is nothing, and that's their fine, that's fine, and that's their decision. But it's just a matter of like, you don't really have a right to tell other people what to think about things that can't be proven. It's pretty ridiculous, because there's all these people in this world that they're having wars over things that cannot be proven. And it's like, okay, so it can't be proven right or wrong. There's no way of ever knowing, yet let's kill each other over it. And, we don't even think that that's a valuable way of looking at the world.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when, there's like hundreds of elephants in the room, it's like, are we going to argue about these little petty, are we going to argue over these little petty differences, or are we going to like really focus on the larger issues at hand? Are we going to focus on statism, or are we going to focus on bickering over a few little details? So I think that I think you're onto something definitely, and I think it'll help us get past a lot of our differences. And that's the thing to me that's like really hypocritical too about a lot of people that want to talk about freedom, but then they want to criticize someone else for the way that they want to live. It's so funny. It's like, you're talking about a free society. Why are you telling people how to live? You know what I mean? So I think we have another caller on the line from 206. How's it going? Did you have any questions for John?
Yeah, what's up, man? It's Cassius.
Hey, what's up, bro? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, John and Nick and everybody?
How you doing, man? It's good to be talking to you.
Bro. Yeah, good to be talking to you too, man. Long history with this dude. Yeah, man. So, dude, I love what you're saying, man. I've been thinking a lot lately about ways to unify myself. I've been thinking about that particularly a lot, and exactly, man. Like, there's people that think in a lot of polarly different ways about things, but there's no reason for why, we shouldn't get along. To do everything that we need to do to change our society for the better and to empower ourselves to, have the strength to function as people and as communities, we're going to have to, further appreciate the common denominator between all of us and just accept people for who they are and, be more tolerant and unified and stuff. So I think that, that conference sounds great, man. I might go to that myself because, we got to accept the common denominator between us and appreciate that, like, as much as we can.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about that Dale that he said about the book and how people think and blah, 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 I think it's going to be an interesting thing you guys are going to do up there in Philly and stuff like that, and hopefully one day you'll put it in Spanish too, so the Mocha Brothers can check it out and stuff like that. And it's right.
It will be in Spanish. It will be in Spanish. You're talking about the book, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we will have the ebook version, and we will actually have an audiobook version in Spanish as well, which is really cool.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the way you kind of put it out there, because of the people think different, and everybody has a different view of everything. It's almost like Beautiful Women, some people like Bernabe sisters, some people like the Mocha sisters, some people like the Dark sisters. In my case, I like a little bit of everything. I like all flavor sisters, you know what I mean? So it's just, I understand exactly the concept you're trying to say in the book,
Well,
yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, I mean, we have to accept the fact that everybody has a different way of looking at things, looking at life, looking at relationships, and that's all part of this dangerous freedom that everyone is so afraid of, is just allowing everybody to do their own thing, and as long as they're not hurting the person next door, okay, fine, do it, and people, I think, are so insecure about those ideas because they're just so afraid. And it goes back to this stupid analogy about the roads and who builds the roads and all this crap. But I don't know if anybody's ever seen anybody building a road, but there isn't guys in suits and ties out there. There aren't bureaucrats out there on the side of the freeway building the road. It is construction workers. It's people that work at construction companies that build roads. And the way that they get paid is through the government, because the government takes it out in taxes from your money, so like it's
and usually it's some bureaucrat's cousin that owns the company, or brother, or even some bureaucrat that owns the company, and he got the contract, and he'll rack up the price.
Exactly, man. And so it's something as simple as that, can kind of get people into the mindset that, okay, maybe things aren't going to be more dangerous without this huge government to tell everybody what to do, because for the most part, people do what they're going to do anyway. And I think Cassius actually wrote an article on this a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, about how like when they make these strict laws that outlaw a bunch of stuff, I mean, all you do is just start populating prisons. You just start populating jails. You don't actually reduce the crime. In fact, when they make these laws, the crime rates go up. Because they're arresting more people.
People do what they do no matter what. Yeah, man.
You mean there's no crime with less cops?
Exactly. It's so stupid that people don't even get that. Like, the people think that people are just going to go kill other, because somebody's telling them not to. But I think that has a lot to do with how we're taught consequences as children. Like, in children, it's this whole punishment mentality that we put onto children, and I'm completely against that. I think that that's where this whole mentality starts. Like, instead of teaching children that, like, if they hit somebody, it'll be bad because they get in trouble, like, you need to teach a child that if they hit somebody, it'll be bad because it'll hurt that other person. You know what I mean? And that builds a whole different mentality, and that's why people are just so fucked up, I think.
And it's also supposing that we're violent by nature, which that's not true if we're in post-scarcity. We're only violent out of necessity, and that's just not the reality anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'm not sure. I'm not a science person particularly, but science has debunked that claim that humans are naturally violent and warlike and crazy. There's this thing called the Seville Statement that came out like in the 80s, I think, and it was like all these scientists got together and had a meeting and basically decided that that was bullshit. Now, I don't necessarily agree with scientists all the time, but I think that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
man.
The only time humans have to get violent is when their territory is encroached on and resources get slim and they need to fight for it. That's the only time in nature that people would really be violent. If you're like nomadic and you're just traveling the land and stuff like many of our ancestors did, there wasn't war on a daily basis. If you ran into another tribe and it wasn't a territorial dispute or whatever, it would be, for the most part, a peaceful, thing.
Probably a party.
But it's when you start getting these big, civilizations, these big cities, these ports, these type of things that were happening back in the ancient Egyptian days and the Sumerian days and all that stuff, Babylonian Empire and all that stuff. Like when you start getting big like pieces of infrastructure like that, that's when you really start having to create wars in order to overtake those things. We have a few callers on the line now that we're gonna get to. 619, can you hear me?
Yo, what up, man?
Hey, 619, you're on the Anti-Media Radio. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, Nick? It's Brain.
Hey, what's up, man? What do you want to talk about tonight?
No, just weighing in on this stuff. It's all very interesting, all right up my alley, I don't really want to backtrack, to vaccines, but as far as human nature, I mean, it is interesting, like we do have violence in us and we're capable of that, but that doesn't seem to be our baseline, like people are saying, and science supports that. And, you're right, like the more of us to gather in any one place, the more likely we are to have conflict, But all that being said, I still, for the most part, don't believe that we can totally eliminate government. We need some organizing force, otherwise we will not.
Can I interject for 1 minute? I would just say that the only disagreement that we would have, I totally agree with you. The only disagreement that we would have is semantics and how we word things. So I would totally agree that we would need a organizational force of some sort. I won't use the word force. We'll need some organization of some sort to kind of handle things, or maybe probably multiple organizations. However, I would not define government that way. I would define government as a territorial monopoly on force within a specific geographical region. Now, that specific thing, I don't think should exist. However, I think that some form of organization should exist. Does that clarify my point a little bit for you?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think that is one of the big issues that arises, is just people, we don't have precise language for this. But any sort of organizational structure, like, that's a form of governance.
Well, that is how you would define it. I would say that government rests upon, like, every government was defined by having a legally justified monopoly on violence. So they obtain, say, like, we're the only people in town who are allowed to handle the police. We're the only people in town who are allowed to handle the roads. That's the kind of situation that I have a problem.
That's what's arisen now, but that wasn't always the case.
So, just to like go down the middle here a little bit, as far as this whole topic, I mean, what if there was areas that had a certain type of government that they preferred, and people were voluntarily able to opt in or opt out of those systems? I think that would be like, because there are some people that would want to live under a direct democracy government, and they can choose to do that. I think, as long as you're not forced to, as long as there's no social contract upon birth, as long as you enter into these things consensually, I think that it's okay. But at this point in time, you're literally born with a gun to your head, and you're handed basically a serial number, and then like that's it. That's basically it for you. So
I totally agree with that. Like,
I would totally agree with that too.
The way the system's evolved is very corrupt, and we don't have a choice. Rather, we have the illusion of choice, but try to go to another country and see how hard that is.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have money, you're not getting out anyway. So nobody really has any global mobility without wealth. And if you have that kind of wealth, things are already going well for you. You're not moving anywhere.
Yeah, or if you have special talents, people will recruit you. But for most folks, it's not a very likely reality. So my other issue with it is, if we're trying to help save the environment, then we really do need some kind of global organizational structure to try and manage resources so that we don't, overutilize the earth like we do now.
Yeah, that's like, that's one thing for me too, is like, because I look at the Earth as like kind of one big organism, and to me, it basically seems like not only humans, but like everything that's here on the Earth, they kind of have a stake in what's going on here, and for the planet. And when it comes to these huge operations extracting oil and all this stuff, I mean, it's when it's world affecting stuff. I think the world should have a say in it, and to me, that's a really like gray area. I'm not exactly sure like what to do about it, because right now we have organizations right now that supposedly do things like that, like the UN and that kind of thing. But they're pretty. They don't really do what they're supposed to do. So
they're all bought and paid for. That's the problem with having a money system and allowing that money to enter into our politics. Like we bribe politicians and people that no longer represent the will of the people, but rather just the will of their financial backers.
John, go ahead, man. I know you were going to say something.
Well, I was just going to say there are people that argue for a free market style of environmentalism that is basically based on property rights and stuff like that. And these people that put these ideas forward, they suggest that the current problem that we have right now with pollution is actually the tragedy of the commons and an issue of the government, where the government writes people contracts to infringe upon the private property of people who don't want their property trashed, and then companies come onto other people's property and then they trash it. So I think that there's a lot of truth to that. However, I don't necessarily subscribe to every single thing that those people say. The person that did a lot of that, work on that, is Walter Block. And again, he does a lot of stuff that I do and don't agree with. But his work on free market environmentalism, I think, is very interesting. And I think it brings up a new dynamic to the discussion where it's like, people don't want to crap where they eat, you know what I mean? So, like, it's a lot of these contracts that are scooped up by eminent domain by the government and then given to somebody who doesn't own or care about the property so they can destroy it. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation, that's all.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, and I get the rationale, but we still have to understand that government as it stands now is completely bought out and corrupt. So yes, government creates an environment that's very conducive to these businesses, but that's because the businesses have a heavy hand in deciding what the government says.
That's because they have the ability to. And I mean, personally, I personally think that that's one of the main reasons why government was created. Governments created the wealthy created the governments to protect their corporations, and basically that's one of the big things. That's my theory. I'm not saying that that's fact.
But we've had governments way longer than corporations. No, but you've had tribal governments. Like, people formed governments whenever they had large groups of people and they needed to organize.
Yeah,
you'll see that in any group of humans, like they'll set up some hierarchical
structure. There's always some kind of structure that's set up, right? And so the problem is that over the past, 10,000 years, humans have kept having these same pitfalls when they organize these structures, and that's why basically every civilization that's ever existed has collapsed, because they always have some sort of issue that's where they mess up and it makes a bunch of people pissed off, or it bankrupts all the middle class, or one or the other. Like, something always happens, or they ruin the environment. I think some theories say Egyptians like over-farmed their land and like the nutrients were gone from the soil, and that's why their civilization collapsed. I mean, there's a bunch of different theories. So yeah, I mean, humans have been doing this to themselves over and over, whether it's war, environmental issues, migration, drought, all that kind of stuff. We've done it over and over, and then we've always had these kind of monarchy type of governments for the most part, and over they failed. And I think that's why it's so important to have these discussions now and put out these new ideas, is because we've had this cycle and we've had this reputation of just messing up like every single time we have a revolution. And we need to advance some new like radical ideas and try them out, because obviously the shit we've been doing for the past 5,000-10,000 years hasn't really been working out for the majority of people.
Sorry about that. Well, my take on that is that we're just lazy. Like, that's what happened. We stopped taking any, concern or consideration for the most part. People just forgot about their government, like let it do its thing, and they forgot that they were actually a part of this. So their obligation was to monitor and check this. Can we stop?
What about the farmers that? I'm sorry to interrupt you, man.
No, it's okay.
What about the farmers that were killed during the whiskey rebellions, though, right after Washington? Like, I mean, they were probably heavily involved in their government and cared a lot about it. So, I mean, I don't think it's complacency. And I really don't think that there was a golden age in American government. I mean,
oh, no.
I think our founding fathers were largely tyrants for the most part, and were handed down this kind of deal. I mean, I just feel like, like I said, it's not necessarily a thing of participation. It's the fact that these people have power over other people. Sorry to interrupt you there, man.
Well, I want to bring this little aspect up from like a bio kind of side of things. In evolution takes time. So humans, we've been experimenting with government for 5 to 10,000 years, and it takes time to evolve out of these, situations. And the only thing that makes you evolve is hardship. So having these governments fail over and over, it makes people try to come up with new ideas. And that's how like republicanism was invented by the, by the Greeks or whatever, and then used by the Romans and all that stuff. It's out of necessity, and considering that this stuff keeps on cycling, bad things keep happening, tyrants keep coming to power, governments keep on being corrupt. We keep thinking about this stuff. But sometimes there's like giant leaps in evolution. One thing changes. If one idea radically changes that enters into the new paradigm as these new revolutions start to happen, there could be a giant leap in the evolution of civilization. And that's kind of, I guess, where we're trying to go to, because we're so frustrated with these thousands of years of dead-ending government that always basically ends in the same situation. We're trying right now. I guess we're trying to make this leap in evolution. Are we going to do it? I don't know. I think we have to keep in mind that we're working on a huge time frame here. It's taken 10,000 years for us to get here. So it's going to take a while to get back up.
On balance, Nick, like you said, the whole thing started on balance with government, because here we're talking about our founding fathers. Where's the balance? I didn't see no women sign the Constitution. There's no equality. What happened to the ladies? Stuff like that. And then religion, takes a big part of people's thinking. The way, religion controls you to the max. That's why I'm so anti-religion and stuff like that. And it's when when these men have so much power, or these white men have so much power. I had a panel, 12 men making decisions on abortion, and I asked the guy, I said, he got offended. I said, Mr. Chairman, how come there's no women on the panel? We're talking about abortion here. We don't need no women, to make decisions. Really? You're making decisions on women's abortion or not abortion, and you don't have no women on the panel, so there's no balances, no diversity, no balances, no equality. I like that,
Yeah,
it should just be all women.
Like, we're represented by people that have no understanding of us at all. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, the whole idea of the republic is we all chose our representatives, and those people were supposed to be akin to us or somehow answerable to us, and that's not the case anymore. But the other side of it is we got to take it in steps, like we can only grow from where we're at. So was it perfect? Like the attempts that we've made? Like, no, we try, and then the problem is we get corrupted, like our government tried to fight off central bankers time and time again, but that is insidious, you know, and they work their way in. Sorry, I got so close at it. But my main point is that what we really need to get people to understand is these are human constructs. These are not forces of nature. Like, we made this government. It hasn't always been like this, and it won't always be like this. And people need to realize that that's fact. You know,
exactly, man. It's just part of our evolution. You know, it's just this. It's stuff that we've built up. Every animal, every organism survives by using its environment to live off of. You know, and that's what we're doing by creating government and stuff. But we're creating a flawed system over and over. You know, we have another caller on the line, and I just want to. I don't know if John's going to be able to stick around or not. I know you said 30 minutes, but if you want, stick around. If not, let us know.
I'll stick around. That's cool.
Cool, man. We have a caller on the line from 323. Hopefully you're still listening. You've been on there for a while. If you could hear me, how's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, y'all. It's Lissa.
How's it going?
It's going okay. I'm recovering. Slowly, I guess.
So, Alyssa, you were down in at the protests that were going on at the LAPD headquarters a few days ago, and you know, what basically why it was, you know, why this was happening was because of, you know, this video that went viral of these cops that shot this guy down on Skid Row, and the video was just so violent, and the cops were just so aggressive. And, you know, and this is just a recurring issue down there on Skid Row, where they're just, you know, they kill people with basically no repercussions, you know, and it was only like 6 months ago when another person got killed down there by the cops. But you were down there to cover the protests, and I know you're a big part of the police accountability movement down in LA. You want to tell us a little bit of what's going on with the LAPD and the situation that you got into, because I'm sure a lot of people listening already know Alyssa was arrested as well. So maybe you can tell us what you can tell us about the whole situation, getting arrested, covering it. What's going on with the LAPD?
I mean, as far as I know, it's really not much different than anything that has gone on with any of the police departments. There was a police commission meeting. It was on, wow, because I'm on jail time. So it was on Monday. Oh, no, Tuesday's the police commission meeting. Tuesday was the police commission meeting. And at the police commission meeting, a lot of people's questions weren't answered directly. You know, Chief Beck tried to dilute the presence of, like, the large presence there, saying they were frequent critics of the Los Angeles Police Department, even though, like, 150 Skid Row residents had marched up to LAPD HQ, which I've never, ever seen at the police commission meeting. But they were, of course, just disregarded because they had activists amongst them, you know, and so that was really sad in some ways. And as far as LAPD is concerned, you know, I don't think that they look, from what I got, and especially because I was arrested and I was in their police stations and I was in the back of LAPD HQ with a bunch of the high-ranking officers and just sort of getting even the feel for them. Like, a lot of people were still making excuses about it, and didn't really feel even accountable on the personal level. And that was really disturbing, because people were like, well, someone could be on drugs and then they can use their limbs while being electrocuted with a taser and still be reaching for his gun. And it was just like, nobody seemed to understand that, you know, Los Angeles County has the highest amount of people who are getting killed by cops. And at some point, we have to say, well, there's something wrong here, and life isn't being valued. And especially looking at the statistics, like 82% of the people getting killed are people of color. I mean, it's like, oh, that's just a coincidence. And so with the cops, like, the only thing that I really heard that was even on the mark is that Captain Graham, who ordered actually 2 of the people's arrest, was in some ways begging for like help with like mental health issues on the streets. Like, and that confrontation happened the night the video was released. That was the one time I actually heard LAPD saying, yeah, you know, we actually really need a society to take some accountability for what's going on with the mental health issues in this country. And that's the only thing that made sense. And as for me, so at about 10:30, people had went into the police commission meeting. I tend not to always attend, I guess, these political gatherings where you just basically speak to your oppressors who are going to do the same thing that they've done every single time. No cop is going to get arrested for this. It's going to, quote unquote, go to the DOJ, who are going to like beg for an indictment, and that's not going to happen. And it's just really about dragging it out for as much time as possible to get public support to fade so that they can get away with murder. I mean, that's what's happened every single time. So there's no use in going to the meetings. But I was outside with the community, and there was a community gathering right outside of LAPD headquarters. And while I was there, a member of the House's community that's also an activist came up to me and had been ticketed that morning for sleeping under the 4th Street Bridge. And for those of you that aren't in LA, it's rainy season. So it's been wet and cold and raining here. Not that anyone should ever get ticketed for sleeping, but I was like, this is absurd. Like, this is basically asking people to suffer and die in the rain. And so I had went up to each cop holding this ticket by my phone and framing their face and taking a picture of them with this ticket and asking them if they give out tickets to the houseless for sleeping. And none of the cops would give me a direct answer about it. And I went inside to take the ticket into the commission meeting and was taking pictures with a couple of the cops inside when the lieutenant came up to me and I think it was a lieutenant or it could have been a sergeant, but got super aggressive with me and basically told me, at first she told me that I was trespassing because she asked me if I was there on police business, and I said, yes, I am. I'm here about this ticket. Like, I find the ticket extremely disturbing. And she tried to tell me that I was trespassing, and I was like, no, I have a right to be here. This is the lobby of a public building. It's LAPD headquarters. Like, we pay for this. And then she told me that if I didn't get out of the building, that, you know, they were going to like arrest me or whatever. And then some officers came and dragged me out of the building. To make a long story short, when I came back to the building, they arrested me and told me that I was disturbing the peace. And so I was taken into a back room there where they were doing like a press junket, where I was searched in front of a bunch of, like, literally, like, there must have been 25 higher ranking officers mostly sitting in this room as I was put up against the wall, and they did their thing. And then I was taken to another station, Central Station, where they put me in a holding cell in what almost looks a little bit like a war room for cops. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like 6 computers in like 3 rows and it's a cop sitting at each of them. And like my booking cop like sat down at one of the computers, and I was in the holding cell, and as I'm watching and I'm listening, because I mean, at this point, like, I've been arrested. I'm kind of in like the belly of the beast, you know, like, I do want to know what's going on. And I want to know what these cops are doing, what they're thinking. So I had been listening back there, and one of the cops would carry it in a box and like stopped at one of my transporting officers' desk where he's at his computer, and they were talking, and he goes, ha ha ha. He's like, that's right, you guys only kill homeless people. And some of the cops cackled, and only one cop in the room threw him like a side glance. Like, she looked bothered by it, but everyone else played along with it.
Wow,
and
that's ridiculous. So I just want to get this straight. Like, so this guy who's the guy that you're talking about that had the ticket for sleeping under a bridge. So this guy was peacefully, and I want to emphasize peacefully, sleeping under a bridge in the rain. And the cops went up and disturbed his peace, right? They went up, basically woke him up, gave him a ticket, and told him to kick rocks. So the cops disturbed the peace of this person who got this ticket, and yet you're the one that went to jail for disturbing the peace, for going in and trying to ask them why they disturbed his peace. That's absolutely insane.
But what she was, I think, more upset about was that I was taking a picture with their face, with their ticket that they should be proud of. I mean, that's their job. That's what they're doing. They're giving tickets to the most disenfranchised people in the city for sleeping and seeking shelter when the ground is cold and wet.
Yep, we've criminalized poverty.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it was real. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
To me, it's just an overall. It's an overall symptom of this whole system, right? We've got this huge system built on apathy. Everyone's so tied up in their day-to-day operation, and all this brainwashing that's going on TV and by the culture, by the government, by the church, everything, whatever. It's all part of this. This is all a symptom. The police state, the amount of people that are on the streets. It's all part of this overall system that we're basically trying to overturn right now, because right now we're faced with a pyramid scheme and we're trying to, at the very least, flip that upside down. But it just goes to show like the absurdity of what this system is doing. I mean, it's criminalizing the homelessness. I know here in San Diego we don't have as many people on the streets as you do in LA, but per capita we have the highest in the nation. And the people here are so criminalized. I mean, we had an event here last year that where we provided warm clothes and food for the people that needed it, and you wouldn't believe like the amount of people that had tickets and citations. They had stacks of tickets, 10, 15 tickets, for sleeping literally just for sleeping on the streets. I mean, it's illegal to not be part of the system.
Half of this,
and some of those guys are sleeping in parks too. Like that's supposed to be public property, right?
Yeah, I mean, about half of the Skid Row community was given tickets like within a year, and it goes back to it was actually instituted here in LA by William Bratton, who's now the police chief in New York. When he was the police chief in LA, I think that this was probably his test run, but this is where he definitely began the broken windows way of policing before going to New York. And so that is what is still going on, that they criminalize the slightest thing in their logic, their defunct logic, to try and stop bigger things. But it's really about criminalizing the poor.
And the thing is that it's a illogical policy, because the people that are doing the really big crimes, they're not out on the street doing little petty things like selling cigarettes like Eric Garner was. They're not out there. The big criminals aren't selling loose cigarettes in front of the liquor store. They're wearing suits and ties, making billions. Or
they're wearing badges and guns.
Yeah, and that's even worse, because these guys are lethal, at least directly in front of you. And so this whole broken window policy of policing, trying to deter crime by just picking on everybody for the slightest things. It's completely backwards. It's just a huge revenue generation system for the most part.
Yeah, it's big business. I was going to say, how many of these pensions that the cops are involved in are invested in private for-profit prison corporations? I mean, there's definitely a conflict of interest, and it's a massive societal one. I mean, they want to grab you for infractions. You know why they're giving homeless people fines? When the fines hit $1,000, do they not have the right to jail them?
Depends on what state, but for the most part, no. It's still up. We're not allowed to have debtors' prisons, so you're not allowed to be in prison just because you're unable to pay.
Yeah.
Theoretically, but in some states, they actually have private firms that handle all of your probation issues, so you do end up going to jail just because you can't make payments.
I think Texas does it that way. I'm pretty sure.
it's not only a war on the poor, but I mean, we're paying for this needless incarceration of these people. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And it comes, a lot of it actually comes back to the taxpayers, because then we pay for people to be put into jail, right? And in California, it's over $60,000 a year per prisoner, which it costs more than Harvard to send somebody to jail here.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And twice as much as UCLA.
For the cost of the cost of the prison industrial complex, we could probably send everybody in the nation to college for free.
You know what? That's what happens when everyone embraces the capitalistic model.
It would be $40 billion to send everybody in this country to college for free. So, and then just to add, so even more disturbing, this tale takes a kind of darker turn, because I'm in jail, so obviously I have absolutely no idea what's happened after I've been taken to jail. Like, they really quickly kind of threw me in the back. And while I'm sitting in the holding cell, two other UCLA students that are activists, I'm an alumni, one of them that I know, but, they're friends, is brought in. And I learned that these two students had come in to inquire about my arrest. And while inquiring, just for inquiring about my arrest, they were also accused of trespassing and violently arrested, and both were sexually assaulted by the cops.
Oh my!
They were both groped. Like, I don't know if you've seen, like, there's video of some of it, but you can see the cops, like, grabbing one of the woman's breasts and ass. Sorry, I don't know if you can say that on the radio, but
yeah,
and you see, like, I actually haven't spoken to the other person, and they kind of describe what happened, but you actually see her being searched in a corner, and you can kind of see that the cop's arm is, like, moving, and you're just like, what? Like, it was just absurd. I mean, they had no reason to do that, and one of the arrests is just so violent, so violent. And these are, like, slight, compared to the cops are like 6 foot burly guys. These are like 140, 155 pound, 19 and 23-year-old students, 21-year-old students,
Yeah, and to me, it's just these crazy bully tactics, and they're denying people of their rights. And I know you've mentioned something about this before, but I wanted to talk about Home and Square before the show's over. We only have 2 more minutes. Home and Square, it's now pretty well known that it's a place where they deny people of their due process and of their rights. But we've speculated that that's not the only site in the country that is treating people that way. In fact, Alyssa, I think you can kind of back me up here as far as similar. I don't want to say they have a secret jail in LA, but they do have the same tactics denying people of the due process that you've told me about before, being done by the LAPD.
Yeah, we've had nearly at least close to 400 kidnappings over these protests, where literally they just mass arrest people, put them in the jail, and then charge them with nothing. And this has been going on since Occupy, but just for these protests, about close to 400 people have been kidnapped by the Los Angeles Police Department. And no charges will be filed. It's just to demobilize them, and they strip them of their rights. They have nothing to charge them with. They just kidnap them and disappear them for however long they can hold them.
And now it's totally illegal because of the NDAA. You can be disappeared for no reason. Just, we don't like what you're saying. We believe that what you're saying is anti-establishment. Bam, you're gone. No trials. You get a military judge that checks it out, and they nearly 100% of the time decide with your arresters,
And they've been doing it even long before the NDAA. This Home and Square thing's been going on for a long time. NDAA only came about with that new detention language in 2012. But it's just the government taking advantage of this supposed moral authority that they think they have, but they don't actually have it. Hopefully, people are starting to realize that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for everyone for calling in. Catch you tomorrow.
Thanks,
same time, same site. Bookmark us.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.